A very beautiful Sabbath, blessed Sabbath to everyone in the four corners of the world. I'd like to greet you all and welcome to BSM TV, where we find all the lessons that we are looking for in this dark world. I'd like to welcome you all from the four corners of the world in your comfort of your homes, so that we can enjoy the study in this week's Sabbath. So I thought of this study, especially when you are traveling on top of a horse, riding a horse, and the horse kneels and goes down on its knees. That is the time we are in. The time we are in where the world now goes down on its knees. You can be wealthy, you can be very rich, you can have everything in life, but there's one thing you need. You need life. So when life is affected, the horse is going down on its knees. And that's the time for us to research and try to find out how we can help each other. That we only need the strength of God, of Jesus Christ. Nothing else. There is a ruler in heaven who is ruling the universe, rules heaven, and also rules on earth. So that's where we have to go on our knees to plead for strength from above, to interpose. So in this time of study, we're going to go through a topic which I said, what did God give to preserve life and health of his people? There are so many things that might look very foolish, very stupid in the eyes of those who think they are wise, but very stupid. But these are the things that God has given us, you and I, so he can be preserved in health. Now, let's make a deep study into those things, because he cannot create people and leave them without remedies. We leave them without things to preserve life and health. We can't be a God like that. Now, let's start with a quote from Christian Education, page 133. I'm going to read this quote. Find out what it is to God at this time when you and I are struggling and we are suffering, we are losing loved ones. We have people who are ill, loved ones who are ill. We are in deep perplexity. Nobody is happy this time, but we have to find out, what did God give to preserve health and life to his people? Now let's read from the first. The Lord is not glorified by the reflections that are cast upon him. Right. When men attribute to him their sufferings, for the Lord has no pleasure in the suffering and death of his people. He has no pleasure. He is not happy. He is not glorified when we attribute all the suffering to him and say it's him causing all that. He has no pleasure in that. For when you are not happy, God is not happy too. When people are struggling, suffering, losing loved ones, God is also not happy. He is not happy. He is also in trouble like we are. He is worried like we are. He is not happy to see people dying. Now, let's read on. He would have them pursue a right course of action. What he wants, he does not want us only to cry or feel, sorrowful. He wants to provide a remedy of the suffering. That's what he wants. He provides solutions. Now, he would have them pursue a right course of action. Right. Carefully looking after their bodies. Right. That they may be in health. Right. That's what he wants. He is in heaven, hanging upon the world, seeing the suffering in the world. But what does he want? He wants to provide a remedy for all that. That's what God is about. He's not happy. Don't think he's happy now, today you are dead. Right. He doesn't do that. He is in deep pain, but his pain will only be alleviated when people discuss how people can be healthy and can have good life. That's God's happiness. Now, science has it all. They are also doing their best to preserve life and health. We also, in the gospel, should do our best to preserve life and health. We should work together. Now, let's read on, yeah?
He would have them pursue a right course of action, carefully looking after their bodies, that they may be in health,
right?
And know how to keep the habitation in order.
That's what he is now worried about, so that he stops this suffering. He would have people look into how to care for themselves and preserve health. This is what God is on about at this moment. Now,
if we neglect
right,
to heed the simple laws by which we may preserve health,
right,
and fail to cultivate right habits, the Lord will not work a miracle to heal our disorders.
I have never seen, you see somebody who suffers from a disease which is caused by lack of water, lack of good hydration. And then he goes for medication, and medication is given, and it alleviates that suffering. But goes back to ignoring the same water which caused the disease. Now, God comes in to provide a cure, a preventive cure, so that we don't go through all these sufferings. This is what God is all about. Yes, he sees what has happened. He sees the suffering that has happened, but he provides a preventive cure to prevent all that. He has to come, because if we do not do that, the suffering won't cease. The suffering will continue. But God has remedies for us to live a healthy life and preserve these sufferings. Do you understand? Now, this is what I took from the book Christian Education, page 133 by Sister White. Right? Let's go to Isaiah. Go to the Bible. Isaiah chapter 55. Now we know we have a part to play to preserve suffering. So chapter 55, verse 2 and 3. Let's hear what God says in his holy book about us to preserve suffering. Now let's hear. Wherefore, Isaiah chapter 55, in the next paragraph.
Okay. Verse 2.
Verse 2.
Wherefore
do
ye spend money for that which is not bread?
Did you hear what question is that? Wherefore, why do you spend money for that which is not bread? Did you hear that? So it means sometimes we buy some things that we want to eat that is not bread. That God says, no, that's not food for you. Why do you waste money buying those things that do not give you health? Did you hear? The very first question is in the Bible. Wherefore do you spend money for that which is not bread? I have seen people, back where I come from, there are things, when you go to shops, you find there's something that they failed to give a name. They can't say this is this is bread, or they can't say this is a sweet, or this is ice cream. That thing has no name, so they just said that thing is called things. So when you go to the shop, you say, I want things. They know what to give you. They give you a packet full like this of something which is called things. I'm going to buy things. It's got no name. It's got no name. So it means if it has no name, even when it goes into your tummy, the tummy will ask, what is this? And the tummy, you tell the tummy that it's called things. And they say, go and buy things. It's called things. Things. And so you ask somebody, what are you buying? He says, I'm buying things. What are you buying things for? To eat. But is that bread? It's not bread. How much money are we spending on buying things that are not bread, but ingesting the things? I've seen people eating things that are not bread. So it means if something is not food, in the Bible terms, it's not food, you're going to destroy your life. It's not food. Yes, the world does it. They want to sell anything. But it's up to you to choose that which is bread, that which is food, that which heaven terms food. You understand? Now, let's read that verse from verse 2 to verse 3 and understand Isaiah chapter 55, verse 2, verse 3. Yeah.
Wherefore
Do
ye spend money for that which is not bread,
right?
and your labor for that which satisfieth not?
Right?
Hearken diligently unto me, and
So it
eat
says,
ye.
one, that thing is not bread. And also, when you eat it, you cannot say you've had a meal. What is it called? Things. What are they? Are you selling things? Ah, it's got no name. It's called things. You know, some funny names of the items that we buy for food. Make sure the Bible terms them food or bread. But if it's something else which cannot give you, cannot sustain your health, you're just injuring yourself. You're clogging your system, the blood with toxins. That's why when we develop flu and we start coughing those things out, it's the body trying to eliminate those toxins that are clogging the blood so that it's not pure blood. We want to work for the blood in our system to be pure blood. But if you introduce things that are not food, the blood is contaminated and cannot fight any infection. Now, let's read on and finish that verse, yeah?
Hearken diligently unto me, and eat ye that
Right.
which is good,
Right,
and let your soul delight itself in fatness.
right,
Incline your ear,
right.
and come unto me, hear,
Mhm.
and your soul shall live,
Right.
and I will make an everlasting covenant with you,
Right.
even the sure mercies of David.
You see what God is expecting? Those who follow him. He's expecting them to buy things that are food. Buy items that they call food, that will go and sustain their health. Not to go and pollute their blood so that it's not pure blood. You need to maintain a stream of blood in your body which is pure. It won't even give you any flu. It won't even give you anything to cough out because the body is struggling all the time to eliminate the toxins out of the system, that we are busy buying things that are not food and contaminating the system. This is what the Bible says. This is what the Bible says. I'm talking to God's people who are called by his name, that this is what the Bible says. Now read on, yeah? Have you finished? It says, and your soul shall live, right?
And your soul shall live, and I will make an everlasting covenant with you, even the sure mercies of David.
Right. That's what God has vowed. That if you make sure when you open your mouth, you are opening that mouth for that which is food, then you will have a healthy system. No, I'm talking of God who had people like Noah, who stayed about 900 years. 900. Now you can't even, you receive a card, a congratulation card for 100 years. But we are talking of Noah who stayed 900 years. Adam, how many years? Why? Because we never heard about these guys, Adam or Noah or Abraham. We never heard them going for an operation. We never heard them going for anything. We never had a pandemic in their time. We never. Something has gone wrong somewhere with us in the system that God gave people to maintain health and preserve life. Because we had people going of 900 years without even a what, all these names that we are getting from, from hospitals of what procedure is this and what procedure is that. We never had it on Adam. We never had it on all the people who lived long. Why? Because they made sure they put in their blood things that are food, not things that are not food. Now, we are here to discuss, to preserve health for you and I. Yes, science has it. We also have it. Science has got, most of it is just medicinal, right? They can give you vaccine. vaccines and everything, but they cannot stop you from getting ill. They can only control. But when we go deeper with what God wants, then we start from root cause analysis. What is the cause of misery? We are not forget about the pandemic, but go to other diseases that we have ignored. This is what we are also talking about. We are saying God gave life, preserved life. He cannot be glorified by him making sure the world is filled with people and not giving a preservatory message. He can't do that. He can only be glorified by us digging deeper into the things that preserve health. And we have to find them in the Bible, in the spirit of prophecy. And when they are written there in black and white, is for you and I to know. Now, while we are on that topic, let's go backwards and find what are the causes of disease. What are the causes of disease? Now we are going to read from the quote there, which was diseases has been identified from the entering wage.
Disease has been identified in 3 different categories.
Right. The diseases are like this. We have 3 different categories of the causes of disease. Because we know of one so much, but there are 3. What are the causes of disease? They are in categories. 3. We are going to study these categories first, right?
Number 1.
Number 1 category.
Hereditary.
Right. Sometimes when you are told you've got this, especially chronic diseases, most of the time, because we don't want to dig so much of what has caused that chronic disease, we end up just saying, oh, maybe it's just hereditary. Oh, my father died of it. Oh, my mother died of it. You know. So these are called under the heading hereditary. So we have got people. We have hereditary diseases, right? Some have a heredity where they quickly their hair goes gray, and they say that's what we do in our clan. It's a hereditary tendency, isn't it? So these are classified under hereditary, or diseases under hereditary, or some have mannerisms or culture which go in their hereditary tendency. So even the disease, they are also lined according to heredity. So we have hereditary diseases, right? We said, how many types of disease do we have? We have 3 types. The first type are hereditary.
Number 2.
Number 2?
Communicative.
Communicative diseases. Which are these communicative diseases? Where somebody was here, I have to put a mask so that when he coughs out, it doesn't come to me. So because it's communicative. Do you see? These are called communicative diseases. When long ago they used to have leprosy. It's communicative. They have to make measures so that they isolate somebody with leprosy. So these are communicative. We have a lot of communicative tuberculosis. All these are communicative diseases. You know, the one that we are now used to is COVID, flu, everything. These are communicative. They come to anyone, whether you're innocent or whatever. These are communicative diseases. So it's another class. So we said we have the first class is hereditary. The second class is communicative, right? Next class.
The third one.
The third one.
Self-created or acquired.
Self-created or self-acquired. Did you hear that? There is a disease under that heading. So we are going to, today, when we are going to find out what did God give to maintain health. So, but let's also have a knowledge of the causes of diseases and how they can be, solved. How we can solve those ones. You understand? Now, read and finish.
This being so, then there must be 3 kinds of sin.
There are also 3 kinds of sin.
And 3 laws to transgress.
And there are 3 laws to transgress. Is disease a sin? You see, there's another introduction that there's a sin also in getting ill. You understand? So meaning also there are 3 kinds of sins. It's a deep study, isn't it? Yeah, let's go into it and forget all the things that we are having, and go into the study to preserve what is next. Do you understand? When things happen, let's not get engrossed into what is happening only, but let's combine what is happening and how to preserve the next one. Did you hear? Now here we have to have a full knowledge of how diseases come about. There's one, we have 3 sins. Which are the sins? Yeah? This being so.
Then there must be 3 kinds of sin.
Right?
3 laws to transgress.
There are 3 also laws to transgress. Which ones are they? Right?
2 of these laws are found in the Decalogue.
They are found in Exodus chapter 20, which is the 10 Commandments. 2 of the laws, they are in Exodus chapter 20, in the Decalogue. Which ones do we know in the Decalogue? From the first one, thou shalt have no other gods before me. Next one, thou shalt not make any graven image. Thou shalt not mention the name of the Lord in vain. Thou shalt remember to keep the Sabbath holy. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness. Thou shalt not... All those in the 10 Commandments, it's only having 2 laws. Who are these 2 laws? The first 4, right, Dido?
The first prohibits sinning against God.
Right. The first 4 sins are for you sinning against God. Is it true? The first one is, let's go to the 10 Commandments, Exodus chapter 20. We want to see the first 4 ones. Are they mentioning, are they contributing to me sinning against God? Now, what was the first one? Yeah.
Thou shalt not have any other gods before me.
Right. If you have another God, it means you are sinning against God. Right? Next one.
Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image,
right,
or any likeness
How
of
many
anything.
graven images do we have that are so many of them? This is a sin. It's a second law. You are sinning against God, right? And then?
Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them.
How do we bow down to the graven image? We give attention to it. That's a sin against God. Now,
Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain.
Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. How many people are saying, oh my God, taking that name in vain, and it's another one of the 10 Commandments which is being broken so widely, right?
For the Lord will not hold him guiltless,
right,
that taketh his name in vain.
Yeah, if you were John or if you were Peter, if anybody says, oh my Peter, oh my Peter, oh my John, would you love it? So that's taking the name of the Lord in vain. We are sinning against God. And what?
Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy.
Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Is it true? If you do not keep the Sabbath day, are you sinning against God? Read on, let's hear. Why should the Sabbath be kept?
6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work.
Right.
But the 7th day
right,
is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God.
How many are obeying that injunction? Why should we keep the Sabbath? Continue.
In it thou shalt do not any work.
Right.
Thou nor thy son.
You, nor thy son.
Nor thy daughter.
Nor thy daughter.
Thy maidservant. Nor thy maidservant. Nor thy cattle. Nor thy stranger that is within thy gates.
So it means on a Sabbath, I can see on a lockdown, everything that is not essential is closed. So that's what is supposed to be done on a Sabbath, isn't it? Only the essential, life-giving work is the one that is supposed to be. Life-sustaining work is allowed on a Sabbath. But all non-essentials are closed. God has that law in the 10 Commandments. Now, if you don't follow that law, you're sinning against God. Right? And why should we keep the Sabbath?
For in 6 days, the Lord made heaven and earth.
Did you hear the reason? Do we have an earth? Yes, we are on an earth. He made heaven, and what is in heaven? Angels. God is in heaven. And what is on earth? People. So it means in 6 days, he created even us. He is a creator. This is his job description. So how do we show his job description? By one day, which is the Sabbath. And someone will say, my Sabbath is where I can start counting from Monday or whatever. God will never make a law without identifying a verse which will identify which day is the Sabbath. Now, the reason why we should keep the Sabbath is because, what? Read on.
For in 6 days.
Yes, in 6 days.
The Lord made heaven and earth,
Right?
the sea,
Right?
and all that in them is,
Right?
and rested the seventh day.
Right.
Wherefore, the Lord blessed the Sabbath day
You see what
and
he did
hallowed
to
it.
that day? He blessed it and he hallowed it. That's why when people say it's a Sabbath, it's a Sabbath. They're not joking. They're talking about the credentials of God. They're talking of a day which was blessed, which was hallowed, which is different from any other day. This is what he did. And the same Bible should identify which one is the Sabbath. Let's go to Luke chapter 23, verse 53 first. So many people know that God, 20, verse 53. Do you have verse 53? They know that Christ was nailed on Good Friday. That's why we had a day called Good Friday. Now that day, Good Friday, is the day Christ was nailed and he died and was buried on that day. That's why we have Good Friday, isn't it? Now let's hear what happened, right?
Verse 52.
Verse
This man went unto Pilate and begged the body of
Verse
Jesus.
52, starting from 52. Yeah.
And he took it down
And he took the body of Christ down
and wrapped it in linen
and wrapped that body in linen
and laid it in the sepulchre
and then laid in the tomb.
that was hewn in stone, wherein never man was before laid.
That tomb was hewn in stone. That no one had been laid there. This is what the Bible is saying, yeah?
And that day was the preparation.
When Christ was buried, it was called a preparation day.
And the Sabbath drew on.
And the Sabbath drew on. You can understand it fully when you go to Good News Bible. Let's go to Good News Bible. On the same verse, we want to see what day was it. Because the King James says that day was the preparation day. So someone will say, I can prepare any day. But we want the same version on a different version, the same verse on a different version, to say that what day was it when the body of Christ was buried? Yeah.
He went into the presence of Pilate
Right.
and asked for the body of Jesus.
Right?
Then he took the body down,
Right?
wrapped it in a linen sheet, and placed it in a tomb, which had been dug out of solid rock, which had never been used.
Right?
It was Friday,
It was Friday.
and the Sabbath was about to
The
begin.
Sabbath was about to begin. So, you know now, the Sabbath follows Friday. Many people do not know that. But when you go to the 10 Commandments, that knowledge of seeing which day was set aside by God, which points to Him as a creator, is the Sabbath. So there's nothing that we do on a Sabbath. We are just commanded to rest and ponder that He did create me and the earth and everything on a Sabbath. Now, these are 4 laws that we've done from verse 1, from the first verse, which is verse 3, and up to that verse is 4 laws in the 10 Commandments that have to do with you and I sinning against God if we don't follow those laws. Did you hear that? Now, the other laws after that one are to do with you and I sinning against our neighbor. Now, let's see the next verse.
Verse
After the
12.
Sabbath. Verse 12. Yeah.
Honor thy father
Right?
and thy mother, that all thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee.
This law is a good law. It has to do with your length of days. Meaning, if you don't honor your parents, that's the end of your days. Your days are cut short. Did you see? That law has to preserve your health. What preservation is that? The preservation is when you honor your parents, when they say thank you to you, it's God who is actually saying thank you to you and lengthening your days. But if your parents are busy against you and you don't even honor them, you are as good as not honoring God. And God is not pleased to see you continue your life because you are a menace. You are a pain. This is the commandment which has to do with cutting your days. Anything will come along in your life. And that's how your days will be cut, because God will cease to protect you from anything. So the law, the 10 Commandments, is a protection. It's got 2 laws. The first 4 are preserving your life. How? By you worshiping God. They are for you not to sin against God. So if you don't sin against God, your life is preserved. In the 10 Commandments, the first 4 laws, it's you sinning against God. And the last 6 laws, it's you sinning against the neighbor. That's why we see even the magistrate was authorized to rule and to judge you according to the 6 laws. Why? Because they had to do with you sinning against your neighbor. If you are stealing, if you are not obeying your parents, if you are killing, then you are sinning against your neighbor. These are the last 6. Yeah, you know them. Let's just read them as a novel, right? The first one was honor parents.
Thou shalt not kill.
Thou shalt not kill.
Thou shalt not commit adultery.
You see? Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt honor your parents. Thou shalt not.
Commit
This is
adultery.
to do with your neighbor.
Thou shalt not steal.
Yeah.
Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor.
How many people bear false witness? They know what has happened. You have an accident there, and somebody was on a wrong lane, and somebody was there watching and say, you be a witness over what you've done? No, I didn't see anything. How many people are bearing false witness? How many? Yeah? You are caught in. You are caught in breaking the lockdown rules. Where did you go? You went to town and no, I was there in the bed. They call it a white lie. There are black lies and white lies. You know what? To God, you are sinning. Whether the lie was to preserve you or to protect you, but you have sinned. You have always to be truthful. These are the 6 laws to preserve your health. Right? And?
Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor.
Yeah?
Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house.
How many people are coveting? Right?
Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife.
Right?
Nor his manservant.
Right?
Nor his maidservant.
Right?
Nor his ox. Nor
How
his
many
ass.
people are breaking these commandments? This is the cause of sin, sinning against your neighbor. So I said the 10 Commandments, he has got 10 commandments. The first 4 are you sinning against God, and the last 6 sinning against your neighbor. But here we have been told that we have 3 reasons why we are ill. The first reason are hereditary. The second reason, communicative. And the next reason is self-created. We will go into each one to find how do I self-create, how do we create, hereditary we have seen, even in the 10 Commandments, it says so. Go to the 2nd commandment. It's in hereditary. Yeah.
2nd commandment. Thou shalt not make any graven image unto thee.
Right.
Of any likeness of anything that is in heaven above.
Right.
Or that is in the earth beneath.
Right.
Or that is in the water under the earth.
Right. And?
Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord, thy God, am a jealous God.
Did you see how he creates a hereditary condition, right?
Visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children.
Do you see? There is a father there who has been visited. Do you understand? Repeat that one. Visiting
the iniquity of the fathers upon the children.
Right?
Unto the third and fourth generation of
so
them that hate me.
Because of one person there who was visited. So the whole heredity has been cursed. This is what he did. He does in the 4 sins against God. He just visits a clan and say, oh, that's what they are agreeing to do, and visits that. And anyone who is born takes over that case. Anyone born, this is the hereditary condition. Do you understand? Now, we understand, we said the first 2, the heredity and communicative, are in the 10 Commandments, right? The first, read there, the first prohibits sinning against God.
Oh, wait. Sorry.
Where it says Exodus 20, verse 3 to 17, yeah.
Okay. The first prohibits sinning against God.
Right.
And the second against our fellow man.
Right. We have seen how it is in the 10 Commandments, right? Then
the third
reason of self-acquired. How do I acquire the third portion of diseases, right?
The third, therefore, is the law of health.
Right. Yeah?
The law which forbids transgressing against
our
own
bodies. Did you hear? Where Isaiah chapter 55 says, why do you buy things that are not bread? You are sinning against your own body. Did you hear? When I buy something and eat something and it causes illness in my body, then it means I've sinned against my own body. Now we have, the first is the hereditary, sinning against God. The communicative, it is sinning against neighbor. And then with the third one is me sinning against my own body. This is the clarification of diseases. Me sinning against my own body, yes. When I go and commit adultery and I acquire diseases from that, I've sinned against my own body. It's self-acquired as well. When I buy something that has been prohibited that causes illness in my body, I've sinned against my own body. It's not under the first two headings. It's under the heading self-acquired. Did you hear that? Now let's go a bit on the hereditary disease.
Plainly then.
Now let's go, when we go there, it's there in verse 5. We have read it about visiting the iniquity of the first and what. So, plainly then.
Plainly then.
It's in entering wage, page 9, right?
Plainly then. Sinning against God,
right,
brings its work a hereditary case.
Yes, right.
The kind that passes from father to son
You see?
unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me,
right,
saith the Lord.
Right. Go to Christ Object Lessons, page 288, fourth paragraph. Know therefore.
Fourth paragraph. Know therefore,
right,
that the Lord thy God, he is God,
right,
the faithful God,
right,
which keepeth covenant and mercy with them that love him,
right,
and keep his commandments to 1,000 generations.
Right.
Thou shalt therefore keep the commandments and the statutes and the judgments which I command thee this day,
right,
to do them, and the Lord will take away from thee all sickness.
Did you hear that? Now we are in Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 6 and 8. When you keep the commandments and the statutes, what are the statutes? The feasts. We've been talking, hammering people that these are binding as long as life lasts. These were not nailed to the cross. There is no way God will say commandments without saying statutes. When he says statutes, he means the feasts. What are they for? They are there. They have been there to sustain the 10 commandments. They were given to preserve the 10 commandments. These are the feasts. Now, when he says statutes, he is meaning the feasts. Now, when you keep the 10 commandments without the feast, you will not get that preservation. You need the preservation of both laws, the statutes and the commandments. So he says, when you do that, and the Lord will take away from thee all sickness. Did you hear that? Now read it again in Deuteronomy 7, verse 6.
Thou shalt therefore keep the commandments
right,
and the statutes
right,
and the judgments
Did
which
you
I
hear?
command thee this day,
right,
to do them.
right,
And the Lord will take away from thee all sickness,
all sickness, right,
and will put none of the
None
evil
of
of
the evil
diseases of
right,
Egypt,
right.
which thou knowest, upon thee.
It's on verse 9. He will not put those diseases. He will take away all sickness. So we have a remedy. What are the remedy? Commandments and feasts and statutes. That's why in the last day, in Malachi chapter 4, verse 4, what does he say? In the last day, that's why he has offered that doctrine in the last day, because he saw all that we are having. What did he?
Remember ye, the law of Moses, my servant, which I commanded unto him in Horeb for all Israel, with the statutes and the judgments.
Right? Do you see those statutes or those feasts? They're coming at last. Now, those who say they were nailed, no, that's the final doctrine that he sends the last prophet. He sends the statutes and the judgments so that they come and mix with the commandments that we are keeping, so that we are preserved in health. Did you hear? Read on.
Behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet
with the statutes and judgments
before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord.
Before he comes, no, because he is coming now, is the great and dreadful day. When he came at first, when he came to die, it was not a great and dreadful day. It is now that it is a great and dreadful day. When he comes now, he sends a preservatory message to preserve health. your health and mine, and protect us from dying. He sent the statutes and judgments, a message in the last day before the great and dreadful day of the Lord. Why? Because we are facing all these diseases. We need a preservation. What preservation? Of the statutes and judgments, so that we can be preserved. Because he says so on Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 6, he says, thou shalt therefore keep the commandments and the statutes and the judgments. Did you hear? Why is he now sending Elijah at the last minute with the statutes and judgments? To give us a message to preserve us from death. Did you hear that? Now, you might see and laugh at it and whatever, but God will never. He says God alone is God. Mm-hmm. And what he has set as medicinal is medicine to those. You know, in the wilderness, they were just being beaten hard by the snakes. They were beaten by snakes. And they were just told, Moses, do a snake in the brazen road. Everyone who look at that brazen snake will live. Several of them died. They just cannot raise their eyes to look at the brazen snake. Now here we have a brazen snake. He says, if you keep, it's a promise, if you keep the statutes, which are the feasts, and the commandments, and the judgment, which has been brought in the last day by the prophet in Malachi 4, verse 4 to 5, you'll be preserved. It's true. It's preserved. Preservation. Want to see if it is preservation? Go to Deuteronomy chapter 6. Are these statutes or the feasts, are they going to preserve you together with the judgment and the commandments? Now read from verse 1 to 2. Mm-hmm.
Now, these are the commandments, the statutes, and the judgments which the Lord your God commanded to teach you,
right?
That you might do them in the land whither ye go to possess it.
What did he command? The statutes, the commandments, the judgments. Did you see those three coming again? God has sent them to Israelites when they were going into Canaan. Says, I have given you the statutes and the commandments and the judgment for you to be preserved. Did you hear? Uh-huh.
That thou mightest fear the Lord thy God.
One, they will make you fear the Lord. And what?
To keep all his statutes,
right,
and his commandments,
right,
which I command thee,
right,
thou
and
thy son,
right,
and thy son's son,
right,
all the days of thy life,
all the days of your life,
and that thy days may be prolonged,
so that they can preserve your life. Did God give you those three to preserve your life? They preserved the lives of Israelites when they walked into Canaan. God gave them as a medicine. That's why the topic is saying, did God give us medicinal laws to preserve us from dying or from illness? Did he? From the Bible, we are reading. It's straightforward. He gave us those to preserve us. Did you hear that? But how many would say, yes, amen, let me do them and be preserved? Like in the brazen altar, in the brazen snake. When they were beaten by snake, they were supposed just to look at the brazen. But they didn't. They didn't. Most of them perished. They chose to perish instead of looking at that brazen snake. Now we have been given the 10 commandments we were reading in Exodus chapter 20 were given to the Israelites. They were not given to us. They were given to the Israelites. We only assumed and took what they are given so that we also have that preservation. Now, these same ones were given to Israelites that they should be prolonged. Their lives should be prolonged. It says so. And what we do, and what else were they given those statutes for? Go to verses 17.
Verse 17.
Mm-hmm.
Ye shall diligently keep the commandments of the Lord your God,
mm-hmm,
and his testimonies,
right,
and his statutes, which
right,
he has commanded thee.
Right. And verse 24?
Verse 24.
Mm-hmm.
And the Lord commanded us to do all these statutes.
All these statutes.
To fear the Lord our God.
To fear the Lord.
For our good always.
For our good always.
That he might preserve us alive.
Do you see that?
As it
this
is at this
is
day.
A preservation for you and I to be alive. The commandments, the statutes, the judgments. These are the law that comes in the day before Christ comes. Before the great and dreadful day. And what else?
And it shall be our righteousness.
This is also our righteousness.
If we observe
right?
to do all these commandments before the Lord our God as he hath commanded us.
All this was given only to protect us, only to preserve our lives, only for our health. You know, it's not only the food, but the laws of God. One, the hereditary ones. The diseases are caused by hereditary, under the topic hereditary diseases, and also under the topic communicative. They are all under the laws of God. The only one which is under self-harm or self-acquired is separate from what we are dealing with right now. What we are dealing with is under those two headings, hereditary and communicative. So it means if I don't keep them, it's not only me who is not going to be preserved, but also my children, also the children of my children. They will also suffer from what I've done. Did you hear? Unto the third and last generation. Do you understand? Now, these hereditary problems that we have, they come from these laws that God has given us to keep. But he says, showing mercy unto thousands and thousands that fear me and give. So God does not say, oh, now you are keeping the statutes, you are keeping the commandments, but I hit your father first, your forefathers. No, he doesn't say, if any on those hereditary problems, on those who have been cast already, anyone says, no, I'm supposed to keep the statutes, I'm supposed to keep the commandments, I'm supposed to keep the judgments, I'm supposed to do that. Any of them is found saying, I need to fear God, I need to do all these laws, God will show mercy. Saying, mercy I'll show to thousands of them that love me. It says so in the commandments. Go to 10 commandments. Want to see, does he hit everyone? But he says, if anyone amongst those who have been struck, anyone says, no, I have to. No, I have to. That's why you find there's someone who keeps these statutes, and that someone keeping the statutes among a very big clan, while the whole clan is not keeping, but that someone who is keeping is magnified by God, so that is blessed. He says he shows mercy. Now read it, that one.
Exodus 20 verse 5.
Verse 5.
Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor to serve them, for I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children, unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me.
Right?
And showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me.
That discover what he wants. Did you hear that? How to love God? How is it to love God? To discover. Someone will say, I love God, I love my God. Leave me with your statutes and what? How do you love God? By keeping his laws.
Amen.
By keeping his laws. Now, this is what he says in Matthew. Go to Matthew chapter 7 when he says, not everyone. I think it's somewhere like verse 21. Not everyone who says, Lord, Lord.
Verse 21.
Yeah.
Not everyone that saith unto me, Lord, Lord,
Lord, Lord,
shall enter into the kingdom of heaven.
That kingdom, my dear. Not everyone saying, I love God, I love my God without keeping his laws. Listen.
But he that doeth the will of my Father which is in heaven.
What is the will of God? What he has given. He gave the 10 commandments to the Israelites when they entered into Israel. He gave also the statutes or the feasts when they entered into Israel. And those who are going to assume what laws that he gave to his people, they are going to be his people as well, isn't it? Now he says, not everyone who says, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom, but that one who is doing my will. We have seen what is his will. He wants us to keep the commandments. He wants us to keep the statutes and the judgments. They were not nailed to the cross, for he is sending them in the last day with Malachi, with the prophet in Malachi chapter 4 verse 45. So you cannot tell me and fool me that they were nailed to the cross when it is their law, their message in the great and dreadful day before Christ comes, and you are telling me they are nailed. You can't fool me that way. But what it is God will second those who will look to the brazen snake and say, which is the brazen snake? It is the commandments, the statutes, and the judgment, and keep them. He will show mercy. Now, he says, not everyone who says, Lord, Lord. Repeat that one. Yeah?
Not everyone
Yeah?
that saith unto me,
Right?
Lord, Lord,
Right.
shall enter into the kingdom of heaven,
Right?
but he that doeth the will of my Father which is in heaven.
Did you see that? Listen to what all these people now today. We have a lot of people. It's a Sabbath, isn't it? There are a lot of people are preaching, thinking that they are preaching for God. They are also saying, Lord, 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 Lord. But listen to what they will come and do. Listen.
Many will say
Many
unto
will
me
come and say,
in
yeah.
that day,
And the Bible doesn't deny that there are many people saying, Lord, Lord, today. It doesn't say. But he is looking for a particular people who say, Lord, Lord, when they keep the commandments and the statutes, which are the feasts and the judgment. These are the people, he says, only those who will keep the commandments and the statutes and the judgments shall enter into the kingdom. It says, many then in the time of the kingdom shall come. Listen to that.
many will say to me in that day,
What will they say?
Lord, Lord,
Right?
have we not prophesied in thy name?
Have we not also been preaching on a Sabbath everywhere? What are you preaching today? What are you prophesying? Are we prophesying the will of God? Are you prophesying the statutes of God? Are you prophesying the judgments, the commandments, what he has said? Men will come and say, have we not been preaching also? We have pulpits. Check Facebook. It's full of pulpits. What are they preaching? Have we not prophesied in your name? And what? Yeah.
And in thy name
Yeah.
you have cast out devils.
And some even cast out devils. They pray here, devil comes out. Now, he does not say they don't. He does not say they don't. They do come out. They do come out. Right?
And in thy name done many wonderful
Do you
works.
know the devil who comes out from people? Sometimes just comes out because of noise. There's too much noise, it comes out. And then you say, oh, I preached, the devil came out. He said, many shall say the devil came out when I was preaching. Yeah, you did it. You did it. But where are the statutes? Where are the commandments? Where are the judgments? You did it, but without the will of God in you. You are just preaching something else over the side. But God is looking for those who do the will of God. He doesn't care whether there were marvelous things that happened. There are some who preach. I saw someone saying, preaching when somebody, you could make even a leg come out from a human being. Come out, and the leg out. It is out. Come back, and the leg back. You know, they make miracles. But where are the statutes? Where are the commandments? Where are everything? So God will never be fooled that day. You never fool him. What you have been doing all these things without the statutes, the commandments, the judgment. That's the will of God. You can't fool. When I say I was also keeping the Sabbath, but where are the whole laws, the statutes, the feasts? Where are they? Which he sent the last prophet in Malachi chapter 4, verse 4 to 5, to preach the statutes and the judgment. Where are they? He doesn't care whether you preached somebody who was dead and he woke up. He doesn't care. Where are the laws? You know, there's some who preach until somebody who is barren start conceiving. Don't worry about that. He will check whether you have the commandment, the statutes, you cannot go and you know, present all the things that were happening when you were preaching. Because you preached, so the Spirit came and everyone started prophesying, everyone started crying, and everyone started lying down like snakes. No, you cannot tell Christ that only when you enter the kingdom. It will be only those who have met the will of God. Did you hear that? Now read on.
Many will say unto me in that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in thy name? And in thy name have cast out devils, and in thy name done many wonderful works.
Wonderful.
And then,
He's not denying that the wonderful works were there. No. Because people, you know, their thoughts are so funny sometimes. When you preach and wonderful things happen, they'll only follow it because of the wonderful thing. Like they were following Christ. They saw Christ feeding 5,000 people with only 5 loaves. The 5,000 and the loaves, they were so plenty that even people had to carry baskets of the leftovers. So people say, he's actually a man of God. They follow because of that. They follow because of the fishes and loaves. Now, the devil knows people have got a tendency to follow fishes and loaves. But God will require his statutes and judgments and laws, because he put them to preserve your health, to preserve your life, to protect even those you are preaching to. He did put them for that. Where is that? Where is that? Because we have read from the Bible, these are going to prolong your life. You see, he gave the statutes and the commandment and the judgment to prolong your life, to preserve health. Where are those? He knows you need health. You need to be prolonged. You need all that stuff. These are coming under the two headings, hereditary and communicative. Did you hear that? Now let's go back to Colossians 2:8-9. We want to hear where Sister White is paraphrasing on Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 5-8. Let's hear what is said in that verse. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Behold, said Moses,
I
have taught you statutes and judgments.
What did Moses teach? Behold,
statutes and judgments.
What are statutes? Sometimes you can think I'm saying statutes are feasts out of my. Let's look at one feast, the new moon. Is it a statute? Let's go to Psalm chapter 81, verse 1-3. It will show us the feast are the statutes. The feasts are God's laws. Let's hear that.
Verse 1.
Verse 1.
Sing aloud.
Sing aloud.
Unto God our strength.
Right?
Make a joyful noise unto the God of Jacob.
Yeah?
Take a psalm.
Take a psalm.
And bring hither the timbrel.
Right?
The pleasant harp with the psaltery.
Right?
Blow up the trumpet in the new moon.
In the new moon.
In the time appointed on our solemn feast day.
Do you see the new moon is a solemn
feast day?
Feast day. Uh-huh.
For this was a statute.
It's a statute
for Israel.
For Israel.
And a law of the God of Jacob.
It's a law of God. So when God is talking about his law, he's not leaving the feast. When he's talking about his holy law, he's talking about the feast. One of the feasts is the new moon. It's a statute. It's a solemn assembly. It's a feast. It's God's law. Did you see that? Now let's go back and see in Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 5-8. What did Moses give to the people? Behold,
yeah, said Moses,
right?
I have taught you statutes,
right,
and judgments, even as the Lord my God commanded me.
Did you hear? He was commanded by God to teach them statutes or the feasts, yeah, and the judgments. Did you hear that? And the commandments. Did you? Yeah.
That ye should do so in the land whither ye go to possess it.
Right.
Keep therefore and do them.
And do them.
For this is your wisdom.
Listen to what is the purpose of those laws. One, this is your wisdom. Right?
And your understanding.
This is what is called wisdom and understanding.
In the sight of the nation.
In the sight of everyone who doesn't know God.
We shall hear all these statutes.
Who will hear these feasts.
And say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people.
Are wise and a wise and understanding generation.
For what nation is there so great?
What is a nation so peculiar?
Who hath God so nigh unto them?
Who has God so nigh?
As the Lord our God in all things that we call upon him for.
The statutes and the commandments, they have God nearer to you. Did you hear that? Preserving your health. It's preserving your... What is it that God gave us to preserve our health? He says, what... You know, the question is, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people. Did you hear? What makes all these benefits of wisdom? What are the benefits of understanding, of peculiarity? It's because of these three preservative laws. These laws that preserve your health. Did you understand? You can argue and say, no, I'll never keep the feast. They are never to cause. But let me say, doomsday upon you because they are preserving health. They preserve your health. They make you, the Bible says they give you more. This is Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 5-8. It says they will preserve your health. They will make you an understanding people, a peculiar people who God is nearer to. Did you understand that? Now read on. Right.
And what nation is there so great that hath statutes and judgments so righteous as all this law, which I said before you this day?
Right. Right. Have you finished verse 8?
Yeah.
Now let's go to a quotation on counsels on health, page 359. Sister White is commenting about the verse. If you want, you can go to the verse chapter 6 of Deuteronomy, we have read it actually, verse 24 to 25. We did read it. But let's hear what she says about that. The fear of the Lord, right?
The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom.
Did you hear the wisdom? It's on Psalms chapter 111, verse 10. So you see, what is this wisdom that Deuteronomy was talking about in Deuteronomy chapter 4? Saying, this is your wisdom, this is your understanding. It's the fear of the Lord. If you fear God, how do you fear God? By keeping the commandments, the statutes. So, what are you called? You have fear of God. That is how to fear God. I see people say, I fear my Lord. My God is good all the time. But all the time, what are you doing? Are you keeping these laws that make you, that diagnose you that you are fearing God? Are you? These laws are the ones that show that you fear God. Now here, those who
hearken diligently to the voice of the Lord,
right,
and cheerfully keep his commandments will be among the number among the number who see God.
Did you see? There are people who are going to meet God alive without tasting death. Sister White in Councils on Herald, page 359, fourth paragraph says, those who hearken diligently to the voice of the Lord, cheerfully keep his commandments, will be among the number who see God. Did you hear? There is a number of people who will see God. Who are those? Those who are diligently keeping these laws. And what?
The Lord commanded us to do all these statutes, to fear the Lord our God.
Did you hear?
For our good always.
Are the statutes going to make you fear God? For our good always. She's quoting Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 24.
That he might preserve us alive,
right,
as it is at this day.
Right?
And it shall be our righteousness.
This is your righteousness.
If we observe to do all these commandments before the Lord our God,
right,
as he hath commanded us.
Right. Now, let's go again to Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 12 and 15. You see, the whole Old Testament has got all these health laws for us in the New Testament to bear them and be protected. Did you see that? Now, here, wherefore, verse 12,
it shall come to pass. Wherefore it shall come to pass,
right,
if ye hearken to these judgments,
right,
and keep and do them,
right,
that the Lord thy God shall keep unto thee,
right,
the covenant and the mercy which he sware unto thy fathers,
right,
and the Lord will take away from thee all sickness, and put none of the evil disease of Egypt,
right,
which thou knowest upon thee,
right,
but will lay them upon all them that hate thee.
Verse 15 says, those statutes, the commandments, the judgments, once you keep them, the Lord will take all the sickness out. But he won't take and bend them. No. He says he will take them and put them to those who hate him. Who hate him? Those who do not want to keep those laws. He will take them, and he says, but will lay them upon all them that hate thee. Did you hear? That hate who? Not that hate God, but that hate who? You! You understand? God is so fair and peculiar in the manner he deals with people. It's because of what you want. He will do exactly what you want. Do you understand? Now, go to 2 TG 37, 18.3, according.
18.3. According to these verses,
right,
most of our diseases are caused through disobedience. And the very fact that there is so much disease in our time is evidence in itself that the world is reaping a full harvest of its disobedience.
Right.
Hence, the longer we continue in our sins, the worse off we will be.
So all that God wants is us stop sinning. If you go to the 10 Commandments, it's just saying stop sinning. You go to the statutes, it's just a stop sinning and do this and be preserved in health. This is what he has given his law for us to be on a safety zone. This is health and safety for us, isn't it? Now, Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 15. Yeah.
Verse 15. But it shall come to pass,
right,
if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe, to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee,
you see those
and overtake thee.
Yes, you can enjoy, say, leave them. You pass. I don't want to hear. Yes, but there is a promise again on Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 15. It shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken, did you hear that? Unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these cases shall come up unto. If you want, you can open your Bible, Deuteronomy chapter 28, from verse 15, and see what will come to anyone who says, no, I don't want. All that he says, all these cases will come to you. Don't explain, I was like this, because of this happened, this and that. The only answer to you is verse 15. If you cannot take the health laws, these are health laws. You can't take the health laws, says all these will come to you. Did you hear? All this. If you had time, you could read the whole cases on Deuteronomy chapter 28, 15 downwards and see what exactly comes to you. You know, and read on.
Cursed shall thou be in the city,
right?
And cursed shall thou be in the field,
right?
Cursed shall be thy basket and thy store. Cursed shall be the fruit of thy body.
Do you see? The fruit of thy body is your kids. The basket is your work. Everything is cursed. Why? Because you just neglected the laws of God. That's what he says. If you don't hearken on my laws, all these cases will come to you. Yeah? And we can read all the cases and finish the whole chapter of Deuteronomy 28. You find all the cases, they come. They come, all this cursed, thy basket. Yes, cursed even the job. Your job is cursed. What else has been cursed? Your fruit of thy body, which are the children. And what else is cursed? Go to verse 22 there and see what other cases there.
Verse 22. The Lord shall smite thee with a consumption.
Did you see? There is a
and
consumption.
with a fever.
And a fever.
And with an inflammation. And with an extreme burning. And with the sword.
Right.
And with the blasting.
And
with mildew. And they shall pursue thee until thou perish.
Did you hear how serious he is with his laws? He says, if you don't hearken, let me promise you, these all will come. What is it? I will send you fever. Yeah, I will send you inflammation. Yeah, I'll send you extreme burning. Yeah, I'm sweating. I'll send you all this. Why? Because you do not hearken to the law I have given for health. Did you hear? Did God give us something for health? Yes, He did. This is all the laws of health. Now let's go to another verse. The Lord will smite thee.
The Lord will smite thee
with the
botch of Egypt.
I don't know what botch is. There's another one that disease is called botch again,
and with the emeralds.
I don't know what disease is that.
And with the scab.
And the scab again.
And with the itch.
And then you start scratching. You scratch. All these diseases. He has prepared them. You understand? And what?
Whereof thou canst not be healed.
Right?
The Lord shall smite thee in the knees.
In the knees, those are the arthritis.
And in the legs.
And legs.
With a sore botch that cannot be healed.
Botch? I don't know this botch he's talking about. Yeah.
From the sole of thy foot unto the top of thy head.
Did you hear what he's talking about? Now all these illnesses, he says, I've prepared them. I've prepared them because you don't want to listen to what. Now let's read from Zechariah. Chapter 14, verse 16 to 19. Yeah? And it shall come to pass that
everyone that is left of all the nations which came against Jerusalem, even to go up from year to, shall even go up from year to year to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, and to keep the Feast of Tabernacles.
Now he's talking about the feast. When he's talking about these illnesses, he's talking about the feast. Did you see that? Right.
And it shall be that whoso will not come up of all the families of the earth unto Jerusalem to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, even upon them shall be no rain.
It's another thing. When you go to plow, no rain. The physical rain. Or you can even take the rain, which is the Holy Spirit. He won't give. He says it doesn't give. No rain. If you don't. Now, he is talking about how angry he can be when his law is not kept. Because he has given all this. If all the families of the earth don't come, they will have this. They will, yeah? And verse 12 on that Zechariah 14. Let's see what plague is he going to give. Yeah. Verse 12, Zechariah 14, verse 12, yeah?
Verse 12.
Yeah, 12. When it's talking about the plague.
Okay. Verse 12.
Mm-hmm.
And this shall be the plague,
Right?
wherewith the Lord will smite all the people that have fought against Jerusalem. Their flesh shall consume away,
Right?
while they stand upon their feet.
If you don't go to the feast, that's what he's saying. If you don't go to that feast, that's what we are fighting against. You understand? So their flesh shall what?
Shall consume upon away,
Right?
while they stand upon their feet.
Right?
And their eyes shall consume away in their holes,
Right?
and
Did you
their
see?
tongue shall consume away in their mouth.
Do you see? I don't know what type of disease is that. It's another plague he's talking about. Now, we have talked so much about these two communicable diseases, but let's go to the one. That one was under hereditary. Let's go to under communicative disease. Which are then the communicative diseases, right? Let's go to entering wage. It is commenting on Exodus chapter 20, verse 12. Now, and sinning.
And sinning against our fellow men brings communicative diseases.
Right. So we saw in the Ten Commandments, the first one, the first four, was what we have been describing about his law. The Ten Commandments, the statutes, the judgments, they are all under the four laws if they are to do with sinning against God. Did you hear? When he said, when you don't go for the feast, this is what I'll give you. I'll give you a botch, an emerald, and whatever. These had to do with the four laws. Now, the 6 laws, which are to do with sinning against you, which gives you the communicative disease. Now, he has talked about it. Sinning against our fellow men brings communicative disease. Let's hear what it is, right?
And sinning against our fellow men brings communicative diseases.
Which are the communicative, right?
Shown in the fact that when Miriam sinned against her brother
Do you
Moses,
remember Miriam had a communicative disease? That's leprosy, right? She sinned against her brother Moses, right?
she was stricken with the contagious disease,
There are
leprosy.
people who think when they sin against their brothers or sisters, they get away with it. But God says, I am there when you sin against your brother. I'll give you a communicative disease. A communicative disease, this is what we are reading from Miriam who sinned against Moses. Now here, let's hear what happened.
Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long.
Right. So it's under Exodus chapter 20, verse 12. When your mother and your father, you don't honor, you fall under the next sin, which is called communicative disease. Like it was with Miriam. She did not honor the prophet who was there, who was Moses. Moses was her brother. She did not respect her brother. And she was given a communicative disease, which was leprosy. That's leprosy, right? Now let's hear again on the story of redemption. Page 141 and 7, the paragraph. Start with the first 4 commandments.
The first 4 commandments were given to show men their duty to God.
Right.
The 4th is
So
the
we
connecting
saw with
link.
the four commandments, they were showing our duty to God. Keeping the Sabbath, keeping the feasts, keeping the statutes, the judgments, the commandments. They are all to do with our duty to God. And we saw how much he was angry when he says, I will smite you with all this. I will not give you none of these diseases. So he protects us from suffering because of those 4 laws. So those 4 laws, they give us that protection. Do you understand? But now he's talking, let's hear. The first 4 commandments were
The
given.
first 4 commandments were given to show man their duty to God.
Right?
The 4th is the connecting link between the great God and man.
Amen. Right? Uh-huh.
The Sabbath, especially,
Right.
was given for the benefit of man and for the honor of God.
Right?
The last 6 precepts show the duty of man to his fellow man.
Right. So it's from the story of redemption, page 141, 7, the paragraph. Now let's read again from a verse, Galatians chapter 7. So whatsoever men.
So, whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap.
That's Galatians chapter 6, verse 7. So it means the communicative is you have sowed something and you reap. Did you hear? So what Miriam did to Moses, she sowed something against Moses. So she was to reap. Did you hear? So that's why I say, what you sow, and when you don't respect your mother, your father. You are sowing seeds. That's why God says, God is not fooled. What you sow is what you reap. What did you sow? You did not respect, so you will reap. Did you hear that? Now, thus it was.
Thus it was that when Haman built the gallows upon which to hang Mordecai.
Do you remember in Esther chapter 7, verse 9? That's the feast which is about to come now in March, isn't it? That's the feast in Adar. That's where his gift is exchanged. It comes from Esther. Haman made gallows against Mordecai, who was who was keeping the statues. He was keeping the statues, Mordecai. But instead, who was hung? It was Haman. He wanted Mordecai to hang, but instead it's him. And he says, because of that feast, that's what will give us strength to overcome the mark of the beast. But how many people are keeping that feast? Instead, what are they keeping? The other feast, which is coming also from the beast. But here, if we keep the feast of the Purim, it's going to give us that strength to overcome the beast. Did you hear that? Now, and when Daniel was...
And when Daniel was unjustly cast into the lion's den, his enemies were devoured by the hungry beasts, but Daniel was spared.
When Daniel was told was cast into the lion's den, everyone was told not to pray for 30 days. But he says, I will not sin against God. I will pray. He was kneeling down 3 times a day. He was kneeling down. But Darius had made a law that nobody should kneel to any god for these 30 days. When they cast him in the den of lions, he was not touched. What made him not touched? These statues. He was scared to sin against God. Those laws that make us sin against God, he did not want to break them. So when he went into the den of lions, those laws, because he was not sinning against God, he was protected. But his enemies now, instead, were the ones who were cast in the den of lions, right? This is under the sin of sinning against your neighbor, which is communicative, right? And moreover,
when the 3 Hebrews were cast into the fiery furnace.
Remember also on Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, they were also told to kneel for the statue. Instead, they said, we cannot kneel for this statue, we will kneel for God. They remained standing. And they were cast into the burning, fiery furnace. Why? What made them remain in the fiery furnace? Why? Because they did not want to kneel for the statue. Same as those who are kneeling for God. When they were stopped, nobody should kneel. No one, they called the Fugamis and whatever. They were kneeling. They were scared not to sin against God. It's God who should receive the kneel. And when those who were casting them out and saying they're kneeling in church, they're whatever, they did not know one thing. They were scared to sin against God because the knee is for God. And this is exactly what happened to these 3 Hebrews. When they were told to kneel now for the statue, they said, no, the knee shouldn't go to the statue. It should go to God. They remained standing, but they were cast in the fiery furnace. But did they burn? Why? Because they did not sin against God. They did not burn. Those who cast them in the church and thought those who were kneeling, let them go to the church and what? They are enjoying a continuation of messages while those who remained are still stuck on the 3rd. Now they are on the 5th. You understand? To show that God magnified their action and gave them further light, and which we are enjoying. If you were part of those who remained in 3rd and want to continue, room is there for you to continue. But let me tell you one thing, it pays not to sin against God. It pays. Now we're enjoying this message of continuing to the 5th angel and possibly continuing everywhere to when the loud cry goes to the whole world. We enjoy. Why? Because we did not agree like it was with the three Hebrews who did not agree to kneel for the statue. We did not agree not to kneel for God. Do you understand? So whatever men wanted us to kneel, to stop kneeling, tough luck, we are continuing. You understand? And what?
Moreover, when the 3 Hebrews were cast into the fiery furnace, those who carried them were consumed by the flames.
Did you see that?
But the Hebrews came out unharmed.
Because they did not sin against God. They knew there is a crime when you don't sin. When you sin against God, you will be under all those condemnation. So they did not. Now, let's go to he that leadeth into captivity. You remember in Revelation chapter 13 verse 10, when the beast who was changing times and laws, he was arrested and leaded into captivity, was captivated and killed. But here we see it pays to do the right thing. When you are told to stop worshiping God, you continue because you don't want to sin against God. When you are told to do something wrong to your neighbor, you don't do it because it pays. You don't do anything wrong against your neighbor, anything wrong against God, because it pays. Do you understand? Now let's run down quickly. Let's go to the self-created diseases right down at the bottom there. Because we cannot finish all of them. We have to jump and leave some of the things. And now we have to see the self-created diseases. Which are they? Which we're told, why do you buy things that are not food? Yeah? Right. But
if the disease be neither hereditary nor communicative.
Now it's on page 10 on EW, yeah. But if the disease be neither hereditary
nor communicative, then it must be self-created,
right,
acquired by oneself.
When you face a disease, they say, no, it's not under hereditary. You have known how the hereditary conditions come about. It's not under communicative. And you have known how communicative come about when you sin against your neighbor. Then, it's not on all those two. So where is this disease? It should be on self-harm. There are plenty diseases under self-harm. Let's hear some self-harm, yeah?
But if the disease be neither hereditary nor communicative,
right,
then it must be self-created, acquired by oneself,
right,
by violating the laws of health, by not living right in one respect or another.
Right. So if you can find them anyway, they are not in hereditary, they are not in communicative, then there is some self-harm. Now what am I saying, self-harm? If you work back to back, you finish one shift, you go to another shift without even allowing yourself to sleep, and then you come, you are now ill, you are now ill. Then it's not under hereditary, it's not under communicative, it's because you are not giving yourself rest. Did you hear that? Or you come and say, I'm suffering from what you call it, constipation. But you surely know you don't drink water. There's self-harm there. Did you hear that? Or maybe your food is not composed of the things that make you prevent constipation. Did you hear that? You know, the cow there, when it's grazing, has two things to eat. Eats grains and also goes to the grass. It combines grain and grass. So as you see the combination of the two, it makes the cow not constipated. Did you hear that? Now, it should be self. Now, let's describe more things on self-harm. Self-harm now, to appreciate. Let's go down with the entering words. Yeah.
To appreciate the importance of this divine counsel,
yeah,
one must fully realize that in the beginning God created man in his own image.
Did you hear
Male
that?
and female created he them.
Yeah?
Yes.
Yes.
In God's own image, were they both to live forever as he himself lives.
When they were created, they were supposed to live forever.
Never to experience pain or death.
Right? They were not supposed to die, right?
To eat understandingly that which is good, and to keep well, however, is to eat only that which the Creator sanctified for man's use.
They were eating what the Creator diagnosed and prescribed for them to eat. They were supposed to eat like that until the end of the world. Did you hear? Now, let's go to Genesis. What was it? What was it that the Creator did for the pair which was created first and was given as food? What was it? Genesis chapter 1 verse 29, right?
Verse 29. Behold, he instructed,
right?
I've given you every herb bearing seed,
right,
which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree, in which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat.
Did you hear the meat? M-E-A-T. The meat in the Bible is the herbs. Seed bearing. Did you hear God mention seed bearing? That's why there's a lot of things without seed. Why? Because the seed bearing will give you life. Did you hear? I said, did God prescribe something to preserve our health? At the beginning, the pair which was supposed to live without tasting death was given a diet of, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in the which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. If to you it shall be for meat. This is the diet that the pair was given. Now it's like a car. I've got my car outside there. The very first thing the manufacturer will tell me is what type of fuel to go in the car. If the manufacturer says it's diesel, never attempt to put petrol. You destroy the car. Never. If the manufacturer himself is the one supposed to tell you more about your car. Now here we are seeing the manufacturer of men prescribing to Adam and Eve in Genesis chapter 1 verse 29, prescribing a diet of herbs, herb-bearing seeds. Did you hear? I can hear people say, oh, now these days, buy herbs and make a concoction. What are you trying to do? These herbs, the herbs, you are going back to Genesis 1 verse 29. What was in the herbs? There were life-saving properties in the herbs. You see, we have got nice herbs like oregano. These are life. They give a lot of benefits. Yeah? Rosemary, tea, sage, basil, thyme, all those. These are the herbs that God prescribed. And also what we eat with the seed. This is what God prescribed for us to live. Did you hear that? Now, the car which is supposed to have diesel instead of petrol. You never tamper with petrol in that car. This verse should be just enough. Don't go to the verse where they entered into the ark with Noah. Noah entered in the ark before. He was still a vegetarian. But when he entered into the ark, because there was no vegetation in the ark, he was told what type of animals to eat for that temporal period, because the water remained immersed on the earth for 1 full year. What was he supposed to eat? There was no vegetation. That's why he was given particular instructions on what to eat, from which animals to eat, and what, because it was a temporal structure. When the ark came down and they were now able to go back to their herbs, they were supposed to go back. That's why they lived 900 years, all those years, because they were following the manufacturer's advice. Did you hear that? Now let's hear on page 7, EW. Although given an immense variety of foodstuffs, every herb and every tree bearing seed, right? The sinless holy pair, being tempted and being inexperienced, reached for the only forbidden fruit in all of God's creation. You see what they did? God said specifically, this tree don't touch, but that tree, those herbs, you should eat. But look at what they did. They went for petrol instead of diesel. Now, when they put petrol in a car which is diesel, all things was changed. Did you hear that? All things changed because they put the wrong thing, which God has forbidden them to touch. Did you hear? Now read on. Yeah.
Having eaten of it, they became subject to that experience, which was to exhibit to them and to their descendants the result of both good and evil, joy and sadness, health and disease, redemption and damnation.
What came after that? When they took the forbidden tree, all these things came. They were now subject to everything, disease and whatever, right? All these were henceforth to he, the lot of humanity. Consequently, while going through these experiences, death passed upon all men and upon all else that was subject to Adam's rulership. Right.
Thus, as the descendants of Father Adam, we naturally came unto this world as first-degree sinners,
right?
Subject to all the good as well as to all the evil that is in it.
Right.
And now, if we choose to practice the good, we shall add no other sin.
Right.
And eventually our sinful nature will be changed and guided by the divine light.
Right.
And we shall be brought to the Edenic sinless state.
Right.
But if we continue to do otherwise, then as a result, we shall acquire additional curses.
Right?
cases which result from our own sinning.
Right?
Uh,
and
if we never turn from pursuing such an evil course, we shall suffer even the second death.
Right.
Of Revelation 20 verse 14.
Right. There is a quote that I sent you. Let's hear at the bottom there, because I'm on Counsels on Diet, page 377, fourth paragraph. Why then, after that, he is giving a message to remove us from eating this flesh? We will see from the beginning there was no flesh. And then in the between there, we saw flesh being given. Why? Because they were going to have animal sacrifices. So God wouldn't stop, because he demanded the priest to eat the meat from the animals as a part of the service of the sacrifice. So he wouldn't. Now, even after when they came back from the Ark of Noah, they were now enjoying the meat. They didn't want to go back. Right. Now, at our time before he comes, why then is he removing the flesh food from us? We see in our prophet, Sister White, has been preaching that we have to stop eating meat. Why? Why is God removing all this? On Counsels on Diet, page 377, fourth paragraph. Right?
Fourth paragraph. He removed the flesh food from them in a great measure.
Why was he removing? Because we saw him attempting to take Moses and the Israelites to cross over the Red Sea, and then giving them manna instead of the animals and everything that they came up with. Remember, the last plague came as a result that Pharaoh had refused them to walk out with the animals and with their flocks of animals and the chickens and everything. But after the death of the firstborn, they walked out with everything, isn't it? So why was God now prescribing manna instead of these animals that they walked out with? Now, he attempted to remove them from Egypt, so that when they are in the wilderness, they now eat manna. They were now vegetarians. Did you see? Manna came directly from heaven and was coming each in a daily abundance. Why did God attempt that? And then we see in our time, the prophet is telling us to desist from eating meat, so that why is God trying to remove that plate, that nice plate smelling nice? Right? He removed the flesh food.
He removed the flesh food from them in a great measure.
In a great measure.
He had granted them flesh in answer to their clamors.
Right? They
just
cried.
before.
We saw them in the wilderness crying for meat. And he instead, he did not say, go to your kraals and take the animals and the chickens. He didn't say that. He had to give them quails. Now listen, what happened?
He had granted them flesh in answer to their clamors.
Right?
Just before reaching Sinai.
Right?
But it was furnished for only one day.
It was furnished for only one day. Right?
God might have provided flesh as easily as manna.
He might have said, okay, now every day I'll be giving you quails instead of manna. He didn't stop manna. Right?
But a restriction was placed upon the people for their good.
It was, God had to restrict them eating this meat for their benefit. What was their benefit? Read.
It was his purpose to supply them with food better suited to their wants than the feverish diet to which many of them had been accustomed in Egypt.
Right?
The perverted appetite was to be brought into a more healthy state, that they might enjoy the food originally provided for man, the fruits of the earth which God gave to Adam and Eve in Eden.
This was the good diet to preserve them from death. Did you hear? Now, God had to preserve them by making sure they stopped eating what was not in Genesis chapter 1, verse 29. Yeah? This is why we find in the first chapter of Daniel, because Daniel was now given the prophecies of Daniel. You go to Daniel chapter 1. Right? Daniel chapter 1. Right? So, we see after Nebuchadnezzar had taken all the Israelites from Israel, they were now captured into Babylon. So we see on verse 3 where the king now wants some of the children of Israel to be taken so that they rule with Nebuchadnezzar. Now read there.
Verse 3.
Verse 3.
And the king spake unto Ashpenaz,
Right.
the master of his eunuchs,
Right.
that he should bring certain of the children of Israel and of the king's seed and of the princes,
Right.
children in whom was no blemish.
Now listen to the property of the selection of these children. You see, that selection which was done is one of the benefit of a good diet, because these children were vegetarian in the first place. They had those properties that Nebuchadnezzar was looking for. Listen to this verse that will show you all the benefits of a vegetarian diet. Right.
Verse 4.
Verse 4.
Children in whom was no blemish. But
Right. So their diet contributed to them not having blemish. Right.
but well favored,
That well favored means, in other versions, it says we're good looking. Yeah.
and skillful in all wisdom.
In their wisdom, their brain, they were very skillful in all, not in one. I can hear here their faculties of science, faculties of arts, faculty. So these ones were all, wherever you put them, they are skillful. What was contributing to that brain cell is their diet. Now,
And cunning in knowledge.
their knowledge was not just a general knowledge. They were cunning. Did you understand? And some people have a blessing of poverty, where they cannot afford meat or flesh and everything. But it's a blessing in disguise, so that the children are brought up with these vegetables. And when they send their children to school, they're so cunning in knowledge. Why? What contributes to that? It's because they are not subjected to these diets which destroy the brain cells, right?
And understanding science.
They were understanding science. Did you hear? This was coming from their diet. Why we say it's from their diet is because when they were given the ordinary diet by the king Nebuchadnezzar, they refused it. They refused all his meats, everything, and they only demanded their own diet, which was the drink, to drink water and also have legumes. Do you understand? Which they called pulse. Pulse was vegetarian. So their diet only, when we see what they requested when they refused the king's meat, is what was giving them all those properties. Do you know what? In the whole of Israel, these children who were selected were the only one who qualified. Did you hear that? Did you hear? Now,
And such as had ability in them to stand in the king's palace, and
Right.
whom they might teach the learning and the tongue of the Chaldeans.
right. So what did the king do to them? Verse 5.
And the king appointed them a daily provision of his king's meat.
Do you see the king? At least this king was knowledgeable, knows a man is what he is from what he eats. But his best as a king who did not know God, his best was these modernized meals which kill the brain. Did you understand? Because the brain cells, they need high protein, highest vitamins, the diet that God prescribed in Genesis chapter 1 verse 29 is what the brain cell, what the pure blood needs to build it hard. So these brain cells, this flow of pure blood comes from the diet that goes into your mouth. Do you understand? Now, the king now takes what is best to him, which was not best to Daniel and these Hebrews. They did not enjoy that because it's not going. They were nice things, but they were going to destroy themselves. They knew these things, if they eat what the king has apportioned to them, they were going to deteriorate in health, in physical, and in spiritual. Everything was going to deteriorate. Yeah.
And the king appointed them a daily provision of the king's meat, and of the wine which he drank.
Right.
So, nourishing them 3 years,
Right.
that at the end thereof they might stand before the king. Now,
Now.
among these were the children of Judah, Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah.
Right. Now let's keep a bit for the. Let's see. They now have seen what they're supposed to eat, so that when the king Nebuchadnezzar is ruling with good, healthy giants from the Hebrews, so that when they are now part of their nationality. So when they are administering with these in his stead, they are good-looking people and understanding wisdom, understanding knowledge, understanding, so that you deal with a lot of things in their national laws. You understand? But listen, the diet has been seen by Daniel, what they're supposed to eat, they knew they were not going to produce what the king is expecting. Do you understand? Verse 8.
Verse 8.
Yeah?
But Daniel purposed in his heart
Do you hear?
that he would not defile himself.
It's not a decision to say today, let me stop eating meat. No, it's a conviction in your heart. That's the thing. You have to preach a sermon in your heart, and get yourself convinced that this is what you want. It's not a matter of copying someone. I've seen people who copy someone who is a vegetarian now. I also want to be. But in times to come, you pass through that, you want it back. You copy. I've seen a roller coaster, people, vegetarian back to meat, vegetarian back to meat. It's because there was no conviction. The very first thing is Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile. Not that Daniel said, no, this is not nice. No, don't lie. It is nice in the mouth. It tastes so good. It's nice. But what he did was, he purposed in the heart, I will not defile myself. Did you hear? I will not defile myself with the king's meat. Now, read on.
Nor with the wine which he drank.
Right?
Therefore he requested of the prince of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself.
Right?
Now, God had brought Daniel into favor and tender love with the prince of the eunuchs.
Do you see how God came in? After Daniel said, no, I won't defile myself with the king's meat. No, I won't. The verse actually says God came in favor with Daniel. Because what has happened, Daniel has now chosen to stand by God's instruction in Genesis chapter 1, verse 29. Right?
Now, God had brought Daniel into favor and tender love with the prince of the eunuchs. And the prince of the eunuchs said unto Daniel, I fear my lord the king, who hath appointed your meat and your drink. For why should he see your faces worse liking than the children that are of thy sort? Then shall ye make me endanger my head to the king. Then said Daniel to Melzar, whom the prince of the eunuchs had set over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, prove thy servants, I beseech thee, 10 days, and let them give us pulse to eat and water to drink.
Right?
Then let our countenances be looked upon before thee, and the countenance.
Now, you see, when he pleaded with this eunuch, he says, prove us for 10 days. Who gave 10 days to Daniel? It's God. Just 10 days, leave us eating this pulse, this vegetarian pulse, and water to drink, and prove us after 10 days. It was just 10 days, brethren, was enough to produce a better looking person. Did you hear? Strong. Let's see what happened after 10 days, right?
So he consented to them in this matter,
right,
and proved them 10 days.
Proved the 10 days. What happened?
And at the end of the 10 days, their countenances,
the countenance, the face,
appeared fair.
The face, no, I'm not saying you're going to change how you look. I'm saying he had now a natural look. Did you? Sometimes we pervert our looks because of what we eat. He had now a natural look. And what happened? What also changed?
And at the end of the 10 days, their countenances appeared fairer and fatter in flesh than all the children which did eat the portion of the king's meat.
Right?
Thus Melzar took away the portion of their meat and the wine which they should drink and gave them pulse.
Did you see what happened? Everything that Nebuchadnezzar expected, a good-looking team to rule with him, they were 10 times better than those who were having the diet which was not vegetarian. Did you hear that? Now, what happened?
As for these 4 children, God gave them.
Now God comes in because
knowledge.
you have chosen that diet. Now God knows I have now a reservoir, a storage where I can store my knowledge. My knowledge. You know, there are people who preach everywhere when they are eating this diet which Daniel refused. I think is that what you preach is just show someone you don't have knowledge. The knowledge should come from God. He gives because he knows the brain now is fit to store my precious gems. Did you understand? Now let's read.
As for these 4 children, God gave them knowledge and skill in all learning and
wherever.
wisdom.
That's why Daniel ended up being a prime minister. Listen.
And Daniel had understanding in all visions and dreams.
Visions and dreams. Why do we have that Daniel chapter 1? Before you read the whole book of the prophets of Daniel, is because Daniel, the book of Daniel was written by Daniel, who was a vegetarian. Did you hear that? So you attempt to want to interpret it without being in the position which Daniel was. The skills, the knowledge, the understanding which was given Daniel before writing the whole book of Daniel is because God now trusted the brain. The brain was now the correct one which could store and also properly illustrate what God is saying. And this is what God is calling upon you and me in the last days. So that when we want the pure brain, which has the highest protein, the highest, all these grains, you go to soya beans, you go to cashew nuts, you go to whatever. These are the ones maintaining the high bubble of protein, the highest. Now, even it says here, when you are eating from the cows and the animals, you are eating the grains in second hand. Second hand, why? Because the cow is eaten for you. And now instead of you going where it is eating, you are going to the cow. Why not just go away? Now, let's go to medical ministry. That's my last book, because I know people there. I want to sleep. You want to sleep, but you want to understand what is health. Yeah? Go to MM 278.4. I have a subject presented to me.
I have the subject presented to me in different aspects.
Right?
The mortality caused by meat eating is not descent.
Mortality is the death. The mortality caused by meat eating is not descent. And what?
If it were, we would hear no more arguments and excuses in
people
favor.
know exactly what meat eating does, no one could argue. No one could. People are scared of illness. If they knew exactly what this meat eating causes, there would be less argument. That's what Sister White is saying, yeah?
The mortality caused by meat eating is not descent.
Right?
If it were, we would hear no more arguments and excuses in favor of the indulgence of the appetite for dead flesh.
Right? And
we have plenty of good things to satisfy hunger. Without bringing corpses upon our table to compose our bill of fare.
Did you hear what Sister White says? Now, here when she goes further, we have like in point 3, 279.3, we have been given.
We've been given the work of advancing health reform.
Do you know that? That's our work. How many pulpits are talking about this meat eating? None. Just a few. We have been given the work of advancing health reform. And what?
The Lord desires his people to be in harmony with one another.
So that when I'm preaching about health reform, I know that your pulpit is also preaching about health reform. Do you understand? The Lord desires his people to be in harmony with one another. Right?
As you must know,
we
shall not leave the position in which for the last 25 years...
At the time she wrote this, it was the last 35 years. Yeah?
35 years. The Lord has been bidding us stand.
Right?
Beware how you place yourself in opposition to the work of health reform.
Beware how you place yourself. You see, there are people who oppose. Especially the people of our own people. They oppose it like anything. They would rather go and preach with it in the mouth. Beware how you oppose this work. And what?
It will go forward.
It will go forward.
For it is the Lord's means of lessening the suffering in our world.
Right?
And of purifying his
people. If
people.
you hear someone saying, oh, do not think if you are vegetarian, you are the only one going to heaven. No, for sure, that statement is coming from someone who is eating it. Did you hear? Yeah, that's what, from your own statements, you derive who you are. You understand? Now here it says, be careful.
Be careful what attitude you assume. Lest you be found causing division.
Who is causing division? The one who is refusing. But who do they say is causing division? The ones that are vegetarian. But be careful what attitude you assume, lest you be found causing division. And what?
My
My
brother,
brother.
even while you fail to bring into your life and into your family the blessing that comes from following the principles of health reform, do not harm others by opposing the light God has given on this
This
subject.
is a light which God gave. Do not harm others. You know, those who want to eat, continue eating, you know how they harm others. From their statements. Like someone is busy battling to say, how can I be vegetarian? And here's a statement of someone belittling the health reform. Who say, after all, nobody can do it. Nobody. And you are harming others by your statements. We should all be saying one thing. And while we do
not make the use of flesh meat a test.
Go to the next chapter. It says, the Lord has given us work.
The Lord has given us the work of proclaiming the message of health reform. And if you cannot step forward in the ranks of those who are giving this message, you are not to make this prominent. In counterworking the efforts of your fellow laborers who are teaching health reform, you are out of order, working on the wrong side.
People are out of order, working on the wrong side because they are not condemning those who are against the health reform. Now, I want while we do not make the use...
While we do not make the use of flesh meat a test, while we do not want to force anyone to give up its use, yet it is our duty to request that no minister of the conference shall make light of or oppose the message of reform on this point.
Right?
If in the face of the light of God is given concerning the effect of meat eating on the system, you will still continue to eat meat, you must bear the consequences.
Right?
But do not take a position before the people that will permit them to think that it is not necessary to call for a reform in regard to meat eating because the Lord is calling for reform.
The Lord calls for this reform. Now, why we should stop eating meat? It was in the previous paragraph. It's for two reasons. One, it's the Lord's arm to stop suffering, for people to stop suffering. And also it's the Lord's arm for purifying the people. So if you want that quotation, it's still finish the whole of this chapter. You'll find those, this chapter will highlight all the importance of being a vegetarian. This is a message which we know, some take it lightly, but I think in one of these days we should be going back to it to see so that we stop the mortality rate, to see so that we protect a few of our brethren from suffering because of intemperance. We have a lot of things under temperance. We can cover even a full year studying temperance. All the 5 laws, 5 natural laws, drinking water, rest, sunshine, all those, every little helps. Every little, sleeping hours, 8 hours a day. There are some people who sleep 1 hour, 2 hours. They do not know that the animals in the crop, they live shorter lives. Why? Because they don't sleep. Did you hear that? But you see, you're just traveling everywhere and think everything is normal, but you are cutting your days every day. Give yourself time to sleep. Give yourself time to exercise. There are people who don't even exercise. They think by sweeping in the house, they finish their exercise. You need to stretch those muscles. You need to jog. Now these days, people have smart TV, have got all the exercises that you need, even if you're on lockdown. You can make for jogging, you can make for whatever. Everything is there for you and I to preserve our bodies holy unto the Lord. A body which God will prescribe and say, I can give knowledge to this body to disseminate the information to the whole world to save people from suffering. May God bless us. When we are in this time of difficulty, to know all the things that happens pertaining to our health and protect our bodies and live good lives and be sanctified by God while we wait for His coming. God bless you and blessed Sabbath.